whole meeting talking about Meredith, how much I love this woman. She is, I met her through the Conscious Contact group in Saturday night meeting in Doylestown. And I was always taught to watch people's feet, not watch their mouth in the program. And watching Meredith, she is enthusiastic about the program. She helps a lot of women. She walks the walk, and she's real. And just help me introduce Meredith.
Thank you so much. That's like so beautiful to hear. I mean, so many years ago, people wouldn't be saying a single thing like that about me. So, thank you very much for the beautiful introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith. I'm definitely an alcoholic.
Hey, Meredith.
And because this is my home group, many of you have heard me speak before. So, and for those that haven't, welcome and thank you for asking me. So my sobriety date is August 27th, 17, and I'll just qualify. I can check off all the different boxes that AA told me I should do. I have a sponsor. I have a home group, which is Clear Cut Directions, the meeting we're at right now. I'm the treasurer of this group, and I sponsor other women, and I just try to be in the middle of AA and involved as much as possible. Prior to coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, my life was completely in shambles internally. If you looked at me from the outside, you'd probably think I had it together. But inside, the unmanageability, the depression, the irritability, restlessness, and discontent was like ridiculous. It took me a long time to, I'm one of those, I'll speak for myself, but I think alcoholics are really good at suffering, and I think we endure a lot of pain for a long time. And I am one of those people, I hung out there for a long time in a lot of pain, but it got so great that I came in for real, and I'll get into that. I came in I jumped right into AA, and I did everything that was asked of me to do because I didn't want to live the way I was living prior to coming in. So because it's an hour speaker meeting, I'll kind of give you the long version, but I'll keep it in the solution, and I won't share many of my war stories just because they didn't keep me sober, so how could they keep you sober? But, growing up, I grew up like probably 15 minutes down the street. I come from a loving family. My parents were married 53 years. I have a sibling. She's my best friend, and we were all very close. So I grew up in a family I was surrounded by love and encouragement and, pretty healthy and pretty solid. So I can't really say, now I said this earlier before the meeting started to a friend. I said, I'm going to take a line out of your book. Like, the longer I stay sober, the better my childhood was. It's just the perception, how I see it. But, so my childhood was wonderful. It's just that I had this perception that it was bad because of X, Y, and Z. And so, knowing now what I know what alcoholism is and what I suffered from, I can see that I suffered from it actually at a very young age. I always felt like I didn't fit in. I always felt irritable to where I always wanted to act out, restless. I always wanted to act out. And, discontented, like just not right, not good in my own skin. And, I now know that I made up those stories like in delusions in my mind thinking, I drank because it was a learning disability, or I drank because I was a chubby kid, but really in all actuality, like I drank because I have an allergy to alcohol, and the moment it hits my lips, I just want to drink more, and I don't want to stop. But I blamed it on all these things, and I blamed it on my parents because there's history of this in our family, and I blamed it on everything but me. And so, I started early. I started when I was 13 years old. I wanted to, I think I did it to fit in, but once I, had my first drink and I realized what it did for me, then it really wasn't about fitting in anymore. It was just finally feeling like comfortable. And I always like to push the limits for everything. So, whether it was my curfew, like I was supposed to be home by 11:30, I'd come home at 1. It was just like I was just always pushing the limits and just seeing what I could get away with. So I started at 13. I was one of the people in my junior high school that, was the one that if you wanted to, drink with and go party with, and she's the girl, and I'll have what you want. And it was just like that from the very beginning. I never had any goals. I never really inspired to be a college student, or I never had goals and never saw myself in a white wedding gown, being all getting married. And really my only goal was to just get out of school at the end of the day and drink and get high. And that was it. And, everybody around me, they were good students, and I had a hard time with school, that's the truth, but definitely didn't apply myself. I kind of just checked out immediately. And, I will add on to say this just because anybody that knows anything about the Grateful Dead or that lifestyle, in 1992 in junior high school at I think I just turned 13, I went to my first Grateful Dead show, and then it was off to the races. And so I would play the I never card with my parents, and I was a queen manipulator at a young age. I just had I had a knack for it. The art to manipulate was easy. I would say, well, I come home and I go to school. I only go on the weekends, and I come home and I go to school on Monday, and it's not like I've ever been arrested, and it's not like, I ever had a DUI, and it's not like I ever got pregnant, and it's not, so I would use all those. And then as I used all those, they were getting checked off the list, that it was less things I could use to manipulate my way to go to these concerts. And so, I started early and I started strong, and that's what I did. And so my goal was to go to as many concerts in as many states across the whole entire country. That's where I was at. I could care less about going to college. I would manipulate my parents and say, well, that money that you saved, you put my sister through college. Don't worry, I won't need that. You can keep that, because I don't need that. And so I would manipulate them out of them thinking they don't do you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go to school. You can keep that 30,000 or whatever it was, which was a blessing, that they were even considering to pay for college. So, as each year went on, my alcoholism and everything got worse, and it got worse, and my addictions got worse, and everything got worse, and I could sit here and I could tell you all the reasons why it got worse, and I could probably check off those boxes with DUIs, arrest, abuse, and you name it. If I wasn't really involved in it, I definitely was involved a little bit in it, and it was horrible. And my life was going nowhere. I was 23 years old. I was already, finally went to all the concerts and went all over the country, and I was homeless and lived on a school bus, and I just thought I lived this magical hippie life. And at the time, I was so under the influence, because at the time I was so delusional. I thought it was grand and it was great and it was so cool. And then it wasn't so cool, because see, here's the thing. I never stopped drinking. I never wanted to stop. I never wanted to stop until it got so bad I wanted to stop and I couldn't. And then I wanted to stop and I couldn't, and I just kept doing it over and over again. And it was just a hellacious cycle. I finally, after so many years, wanted to stop and I couldn't. And that was the worst feeling, to know that I was so powerless over alcohol and everything else, that I had I had no choice but to continue to do it, and that's what I did. And all I wanted to do was stop and run or run back home and get better, and I couldn't. And the consequences and the things I was putting myself into was just like so ridiculous. Like things I would never do in a million years. I did while I was under the influence of alcohol and other things, like things that, now I can use them, now I can use them as a tool, and I can do language of the heart, and I can help a young girl, and I can be like, listen, I've been there, you can trust me. So like now those things that happened to me as a young adult and as an alcoholic, now I can use them to benefit and help others. But at the time, there was no helping others. I couldn't even help myself. So I finally just knew I was going to just overdose and die or crash my car or whatever, and whatever it was, that's what was going to happen. And I begged my parents to help me, and I went to rehab for the first time when I was 23. And I honestly never surrendered. I never realized the whole powerlessness that was involved with this disease. I didn't understand any of it. All I knew is that I needed it to stop, and it had to stop because I couldn't live that way anymore. And I mingled in AA for 6 years. I got I got separated, and then I didn't use anything or drink anything for about 6 years. I'd like to say I was a pleasure to be around, but chances are I wasn't. I did feel better because for the first time in my life, I wasn't really controlled by something. I wasn't wasting all my time thinking about getting it and drinking it and, all that. And I didn't do that, but I didn't realize, I thought I was a kid that was going to grow out of this. I thought it was the group of people, see, I'm blaming everyone. I thought it was the group of people that I hung out with. I thought it was that lifestyle I was living. And I thought that if I got away from that, I would be fine. And I thought because I had such a problem with dry goods that if I, got away from that, I'd be okay. And I swear I thought that. That's really what I thought, because I didn't understand alcoholism. Because when it was bad so I stayed dry for 6 years, and I came to AA a few times a week, and I followed a boy around like a regular young 20-year-old does in AA when they don't really want to get better yet, and they just kind of, I read how it works, and I thought I've arrived and I can do this. Not doing anything with a sponsor, not doing any type of step work, not reading the big book or learning anything. And so that relationship ended, a couple years. That was probably my longest relationship ever at the time. And I decided to drink some wine one night. And I manipulated my family, and I told them, listen, you don't have to worry about me. I had a problem with that stuff. I'm never going to do that stuff ever again. That's what brought me to my knees and brought me to rehab. And I fooled them, fooled myself, because what I thought was a rock bottom at 23, which was very bleak and very dark and looked very horrible, it was nothing compared to after the 9 years I was out in my 30s and when I crawled back in this time when I was 38. Because the trapdoor to hell that I saw when I was 23 had a hidden trapdoor under that. And I didn't even know I didn't even think that could exist, and it does. And as much as I thought I was going to grow out of it, I grew so into my alcoholism because it was so progressive, like it is for all of us, that I couldn't even believe what I felt. Because so now, my 30s, I was in my 30s, and I just kept drinking, and I kept fooling myself because I kept thinking, I'm an alcoholic who can pay her bills, and I'm an alcoholic who has a nice little cute car and has a nice little purse, and can wash herself up and look okay and go to work. So people, I don't use the term functioning alcoholic because internally I was dying, but on the outside, everybody, if you looked at me and you didn't know me, you would think I was okay. If you dealt with me and you heard what kind of garbage came out of my mouth, or you were involved in the anger or anything or the rage that you like, you know, was around, it was horrible. Or you might get the happy-go-lucky, really generous, wanting to buy you all dinner girl. So like, you don't know what you'd get. I never knew who I was going to be. But so I stayed out for a long time because I thought, you know, like, no, an alcoholic has to be someone that's like homeless in Kensington or with a trench coat and a brown bag. And I thought for sure, you know, I was like, no, because like I pay my bills. I pay my bills, but it didn't matter because inside I was hollow. I was so spiritually sick, and the word bankrupt is very accurate. There was nothing. I felt like I use this analogy, maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't, but like in Pac-Man, like little ghosts that follow the Pac-Man, just like that hollowness, like that was me just like wandering around like the earth, just like wanting to die. Like that's how I felt. And you know, I knew I had to look at the big picture. I knew I had a loving family. I knew in my heart I came from good people, and I knew I really was a good person. I just knew I was really sick. So yet again, 38, went back to rehab and checked myself in, brought my own little rolly luggage. I was like, this is it. I'm doing it this time. And I probably had more shoes than anybody in rehab, but you know, whatever, just kidding. No, I did like literally was like, I need a ride to rehab, Dad, like please, you know. I'm like, this is like, it's either we're going to the cemetery or we're going to rehab, and like I chose rehab. And I don't know what made it different. I think maybe because I had that full experience, I had that full powerlessness. I had about a 15-year journey of what a first step experience, how I couldn't stop when I wanted to, and it just kept going on and on and on. But it was different, and I totally, you know, treated it differently. I knew it was life or death. Like as a kid, I thought it was just a phase, but at 38 years old, and suffered from this for like over 20 years, I was like, this is not going away. So got the help, got separated from, you know, everything that I was addicted to at the time. And came out running, and was like running towards like AA, and pretty much just had to check my pride and ego at the door, and that's what I did, and that's what I try to do like every single day. Like before a meeting, I pray, and I'm just like, God, please remove my pride, ego, and any arrogance or anything that gets in the way of you, because that's just my natural default. Pride, arrogance, and ego, like yuck. Like who wants to be like that? That's just my default. But so I got involved went right to AA, you know, and I don't know, I guess God, you know, like to talk about some spirituality, I didn't grow up in a religious family. I did not. I always believed in something. Like, I don't know what I believed in, but I knew it was something bigger than me. And I knew that for all the times that I should have overdosed and died or crashed the car or had horrible experiences that never happened, I knew someone was watching out for me. And what it was, I didn't know. And I didn't need to know at the time. That's what my sponsor told me. She said, just believe in something. It's got to be bigger than you. It's got to be loving and kind, and it can't be Meredith. And I was like, okay, sign me up. Like, please help me. And, you know, and so I met this woman, and she was super spiritual. She had so much like when I picked her as a sponsor, I don't know why I know why I picked her now, but she had so much going on. She had like 5 kids. One of them just jumped in front of a train tracks because of this disease. She had all this craziness going on, but this woman walked with such poise and dignity and grace, and she was like so just like everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, and she's sober. So I was like, that's impressive. Like, how do we do this? And so you know, I'd meet her at her house. We'd read the book and line by line. And she taught me, and she asked me, if I take the time to do this with you, you promise me you'll do it with other women. And I said, yes, please, just give me this magic treasure map or whatever you're reading. Like, teach it to me now. Like, I need this. And so, you know, I went to a bunch of meetings, and I still do, but I really knew, because my sponsor taught it to me, that the solution like what she helped me understand what I suffer from and the alcoholism, and like she helped me understand that the liquor is just but a symptom. Like you can take that out of me, but I'm still stuck with me. I have an allergy that once I drink it, I just want to keep drinking it, and I have a head that tells me like I don't have this problem that I have, and I have a head that's going to be obsessed over alcohol and anything else. And so she helped me understand what I suffered from, and that it wasn't just the drink, and I had to do some internal rearranging inside. And she helped me understand that if I take if alcohol is my solution, and I chased that all those years to make myself feel better, and you take that out of me, then what am I replacing it with? And so she explained to me, that's like you got to find a power bigger than yourself. If you're powerless, you got to find a power. So what's that power? And so we would call it like spiritual stew, or like spiritual cup, like fill my heart. And so I just practiced praying. I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I have practice. I do it every day. So you just start to, when somebody learns a sport or instrument, they start at the beginning. They may be good at it at first, but really and truly they get better with time and practice. And so I practiced praying. I don't know who I was praying to at first, but as time has gone on, my spirituality has strengthened and my prayer life has strengthened, and it's because of practice. And here's the thing, I'm not just sober, like I'm not just like, oh, I haven't done, alcohol or drugs for over 4.5 years. Like I'm actually happy. I'm actually like contented sobriety. That's what I wanted. And because by doing what I do, I'm granted that. And, and it's not because it's not because life is so easy. Those that know me know that there's been a lot of lifey things that have happened to me in this past year. A lot of lifey things. But I also do believe that I'm not in charge, and whatever you want to call it, creative universe, higher power, God has a plan. And I do believe that. And I do believe that when I do God's work well and I help women, or I show up for my family, or I'm a good girlfriend to, a good partner, or I'm a good employee, or I do things with like love and tolerance and not ego and pride, when I do all those things, it helps me stay in line with God's will. And God has a plan, so it helps me to understand that I don't have to control things. Like I can just like kind of let it go, which is crazy because you guys only know me as the sober version. You don't know me as the crazy monster that my family calls me or called me. But anyway, so like this past year, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. She died in January. That was very, very, very hard. And now my father's on hospice. And we're just cleaning their house out. And it's like a memory and memory. But the thing is when I came into AA, like I've never been alone since. And it's not just me. It's me and a whole entire village. Like the first word of the first step is we admit it. It doesn't say you, it doesn't say I, it says we. Because it's, it's like, it sounds like cliche, but like it is a we program. It's not meant to be done by yourself. And I never have been alone. And I haven't been alone at all since my family has gotten sick. And, I could sit around on most days, and if I wanted to, and I could sit in self-pity and think, oh my God, like I lost my mom and now I'm losing my dad. And I could think like that, but what's the point? So I can feel horrible? Or I can think of the good things. I can think of it like, hey, I've always wanted to work for this company that I work for now for about 2 years. They hired me, and that's the job I've always wanted to work at. And I can also look at the great things like, hey, I finally found a loving partner that I've always wanted my whole entire life but was never healthy to. Oh, I got that. Like, so it's like all perception. It's all perception. It's all how I choose to perceive things. And one of the best things that this program has done for me, and they talk about it in our book, is like a psychic change. Like my thought pattern is not the way it was years ago. Like not at all. Because I would be like, hey, my mom died, my dad's on hospice. What are you going to do for me? That's the old Meredith. What are you going to do for me? You know, queen manipulator. But you know, it's a gift. So like part of, you know, I wreaked a lot of havoc on my family. Obviously, we're very close. So you know, over the years, like I did wrong my parents a lot. So like, you know, when it came time and I did my amends, you know, and I stated everything I did that was wrong and it wasn't right, and how can I make it up to you, and you know, that whole amends process with my mom, which was very freeing. When my mom was sick, I showed up in ways that I'd never be able to repay, like never. Like when my mom passed, I knew in my heart that I was the daughter that showed up in ways that I never would have been able to. Like that's a gift. Like I couldn't go out and do anything else for my mom. Like that literally, like God provided that situation for me, and to be there for my mom, to know that like I showed up. Because like now in my heart, like I know I was a good daughter. I don't have to wonder if I was, like I know I was. And I'm now doing that for my father, you know, and I'm showing up for him too, you know. And here's the bright side. I have a sister who's like really great, and like we help each other do all this. So it's not like I'm doing it by myself, because a lot of families, they don't have siblings who want to help. So like, you know, she helps me, and I have a lot of some of my wonderful, beautiful sponsees come over and help me clean the house and do all sorts of good stuff. And you know, life is really blessed. And like, I'm not saying that to blow smoke up your butt. Like, I'm just so not, like, this program changed my life. That's why I am so enthusiastic about it, because like if it can work for me, it can work for you. And you know, a lot of people are like, I can't picture you like, you know, what you say you were like, well, that's the program, you know. So anyway, I went through all the steps, and it's not something that I went through and like I got like a badge, you know, and I'm like, I completed the steps, like I'm good now. It's a design for living. So I went through I was taught how to do, and then it was up to me to go and teach other women how to do it. And by doing that has helped me practice it and learn the book, and you know, and those skill sets by showing others. And you know, it's just so beautiful, because you know, life's not going to stop, but it's like I'm powerless over everything. I'm not powerless over my actions that I'm going to put in to do what I like. I'm not powerless over my actions, but how am I going to react to a situation? Am I going to react like completely like resentful? Am I going to react full of self-pity? Am I going to react with love and tolerance? Like, how am I going to react? How am I going to show up? And you know, the book teaches, our literature teaches us how to do all those things. Like I'm not a scholar in school. I definitely have a lot of street smarts. I definitely have like a lot of, I learned a lot of stuff like street smarts, but that book has changed my entire life. Just trying to think what else I want to touch on, because I can't speak for an hour. As much as my ego's like, get it, girl, get it, just start talking more about stuff. Like, no, like I don't even think I can do that. But yeah, I'm forever grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous and the program, because it's changed my life. And like, the least I can do is show up for others and be accountable and put my hand out to help others, because that's what all the women did for me that walked before me. Like, you know, and they still do, you know, and I'm forever grateful. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you. Everyone has like 10 minutes to share each. I'm just kidding.
20 minutes.